News, police are searching for a suspect after an officer was shot in St. Johnsbury. Vermont State Police say the suspect is 38-year-old Scott Mason of St. Johnsbury. They say officers went to Mason's apartment responding to a domestic violence incident, but when they arrived, Mason shot at them and hit Captain Dale Jason Gray at least once. We don't know Captain Gray's condition or the extent of his injuries, but we do know he was airlifted to Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, and his injuries do not appear to be life-threatening. We spoke to residents in the area who say they're very concerned.
This doesn't happen all the time, and when it does, it's, a sad day, and I just hope everybody's okay for the most part, and I hope we catch the guy.
There is currently a blue alert report out as Mason is still on the loose. Police ask for you to call them if you have any information.
Much love, respect, and appreciation to every single one of you tuning in right now. I don't take your time or your support for granted, so before anything else, let me just say thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of this community where we can speak truth without sugarcoating it. Because it's only through real conversations like this that we shine light on what others try to keep in the dark. Now, let's get into what you just heard. But let's really break down what you just heard. Because once again, here we are, staring at another violent white man who shot at police officers, nearly killed a captain in broad daylight, and yet, silence. No wall-to-wall coverage. No politicians rushing to the microphones. No endless news cycle branding him a thug, a super predator, or a monster. Nothing but crickets. Ask yourself, why? Why is it that in Vermont, one of the whitest states in America, a man can openly fire on officers, hit Captain Jason Gray in the chest, and still, somehow, this story doesn't dominate headlines across the nation? If the skin tone of this suspect had been any different, we all know the narrative would have flipped instantly. You'd be seeing his face plastered on every channel, his background dissected, his past dragged out to justify why police had to shoot first and ask questions later.
The man suspected of shooting a Vermont police officer is now in custody.
Vermont State Police say 38-year-old Scott Mason was arrested around 2 o'clock this morning. They say that he was found at a house in St. Johnsbury that was right next door to where Captain Jason Gray was shot and seriously hurt. Vermont State Police say that officers responded to a domestic violence call at Mason's apartment on Friday afternoon. Gray was shot in the chest. He was wearing a bulletproof vest. Now this morning, he's at a New Hampshire hospital with serious injuries.
Mason was brought to the state police barracks in St. Johnsbury for processing. Police say he will be taken to jail on an arrest warrant of charges of attempted second-degree murder and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer resulting in serious bodily injury. He is also facing other unrelated charges.
They would have already built a story to condemn him before the trial even started. But instead, look at the contrast. This man, Scott Mason, not only fired at police, he escaped. Let that sink in. He escaped. Even after nearly killing an officer, even after sending a whole department scrambling, he was able to walk away and hide. And the system gave him the benefit of time, caution, and patience. How many of us have seen cases where black men didn't even fire a weapon, didn't even pose a real threat, and yet they didn't walk away alive? How many times have we watched the news spin the narrative before the truth even comes out? This is what I need y'all to really pay attention to. The double standard isn't hidden, it's right in front of us. On one side, we have restraint, excuses, medical care, and courtroom appearances. On the other side,
very clearly a danger to the community at large.
The man accused of shooting a Vermont police captain in court today. Scott Mason pleading not guilty. State police in Vermont say what started as a response to a domestic assault call ended with St. Johnsbury police captain Jason Gray seriously hurt.
One of the shotgun blasts actually went through the window, indicating that Mr. Mason knew exactly what and who he was firing at.
His attorney disagreeing to that point from prosecutors.
There's no evidence that he knew who was coming up the stairs, that he had any plan to harm this person.
Newly obtained court documents say Mason's wife told officers he had been acting, quote, delusional and had been using crack cocaine. The 38-year-old sparking a large search that lasted some 2 days. Ultimately, an anonymous tip led police to him at the home right next door to where the shooting happened. Dozens of friends and family of Captain Gray filled the courtroom.
He's a wonderful person. He was always there to tell us what to do, give us advice. He cared deeply about the city and the people in the village and everything. I mean, this is a terrible thing that happened to him.
Now, Mason could be facing life in prison if convicted. Captain Gray is being treated for serious injuries.
We have bullets, mugshots, character assassinations, and grieving families who never get the same compassion from the media or the system. So before I roll the body cam footage, I want you to pause and ask yourself this. Why does the media suddenly go quiet when the suspect looks like this? Why is the outrage muted when the narrative doesn't fit their stereotype? Because the truth is, this silence, this selective storytelling, is its own form of violence. And that's the part nobody wants to talk about. Now watch this.
Hey. What's going on?
Broken. I don't know if it's recent.
Oh my God!
Flashbang! 687, 680, we have flashbangs going off me. Captain's up there. Captain's up there. Come on. Get down.
Ambulance.
A7, 680, we need an ambulance now. This is my son. A7, 687, 680, we need an ambulance now. Where are you? Are you hit with a flashbang or bullet?
Bullet in the face.
Now, family, y'all just saw it with your own eyes. The officer, bleeding, screaming that he's been shot in the face, while a whole squad of police are standing outside that door. And what did they do? Did they rush in like warriors, kicking down doors, spraying bullets like we've seen so many times before in black neighborhoods? Did they storm that apartment like they did in Louisville when Breonna Taylor's home was turned into a war zone in the middle of the night? No. Instead, what we saw was hesitation, caution, restraint. A white man with a shotgun blasts a police captain in the chest, nearly takes his life, and somehow the priority shifts. Suddenly it's about being careful. Suddenly it's about pulling back. Suddenly it's about waiting, negotiating, giving him space. And then, here's the twisted part. This man not only survives, he escapes, right under the noses of multiple armed officers. He disappears, vanishes into thin air, and they don't catch him until 2 days later. And where was he hiding? Not in another county, not across the border, but right next door. Family. Let that sink in. Now pause with me for a moment. Imagine if his name wasn't Scott Mason. Imagine if this wasn't Vermont. Imagine if the shooter had been a young black man. Would he have walked out of that building alive? Would he have gotten 2 days of freedom, 2 days of breathing fresh air, 2 days of existing outside of a coffin or a cell? We all know the answer. They would have lit that entire block on fire with bullets, and the story would have already been written. Dangerous thug neutralized. But here we're told, Mason was delusional, Mason was struggling, Mason was on drugs, Mason was misunderstood. They tell us he deserves the courtroom. They tell us he deserves the chance to explain. They tell us he deserves his day in front of a judge. And yet, how many black men never even make it to that courtroom? How many never get to plead their case, never get to explain, never even get a chance to breathe? And this is the heart of the double standard. It's not just about one man shooting a cop. It's about what America shows you when it's their own, and what they do to us when it's not. The rulebook shifts depending on the color of the suspect, and that's not justice, that's a script. So I need y'all to really think about what you just witnessed, and I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just a crime story. This is the conversation America runs away from. But here, we don't run. We face it head on.